What's going on, everyone? In today's episode, I'm going to show you 8 flowers that you need to be starting right now in February. Let's go. So now I know that you're probably worried about starting seeds in February because it seems like spring is so far away. However, a lot of these flower varieties, the reason why you want to start them early is because they're summer flowering. And if you were to start them from seed much later, they would flower in summer, but they would not have as much time where you could enjoy them, cut from them, or even just view them in your garden. So it's very important that we start them early. Even if the maturity date is, say, 60 to 80 days, and you have 120 days in your growing season, the reason why you want to start them sooner is simply so you can enjoy them longer. And that's the real premise behind starting a lot of these flower seeds indoors early. Other flower seeds, because they don't traditionally grow here in Michigan, Zone 6, you need a longer period of time to grow them. And so those ones, there are some in here that do take 140 to 160 days. And in order to enjoy them or get any harvest at all, you got to start them early. And so with that, the first flower variety that we're going to start are poppies. When it comes to poppies, they need to be cold stratified first. We have a whole video on cold stratification, but basically we're tricking these seeds into thinking they went through winter weather. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a Ziploc baggie. We're going to put a paper towel, a dry paper towel in. We're going to dampen it. We don't want to soak it, just damp enough that it absorbs all the water and there's no excess. And then we're going to take our seeds and we're going to sprinkle seeds on the damp paper towel. And we're going to place it in the fridge for roughly 3 to 5 weeks. After 3 to 5 weeks, we're going to remove the seeds from cold storage. We're going to simply leave them out at room temperature until we start to see sprouts. At that point, then we will remove the paper towel. We'll pluck the sprouting seeds from the paper towel and move them into soil. The next flower you should be starting in February are snapdragons. Snapdragons are a notoriously long grow. They can often take 110 to 120 days to mature, and that's before you even get flowers. So if you want to get flowers during the main growing season and you want to enjoy your snapdragons longer into the season, you got to be starting them now. To sow your snapdragon seeds, the first thing you want to do is have a really good quality seed starting mix. We're using Pro Mix. This is what we use in all of our trays here. It's a very fine mix that's got a lot of porosity and has a good amount of perlite and vermiculite to accommodate for a plant that's going to be growing in here for the next 2 to 3 months. Now, when it comes to snapdragons are incredibly small seed, and you need to actually surface sow. They need sunlight to sprout. So what we're going to do is we are going to simply press down the soil, give it a little compaction. We're going to sprinkle our seeds right on the surface. As you can see, it looks like flecks of pepper. So I'm not going to be too worried about how many seeds I'm getting. I'm just going to try to get roughly 3 to 5 seeds per cell here. I'm probably getting more than that, and that's okay. I can always thin later. And the idea behind surface sowing is because they're so small and because they require sunlight to germinate, we are not going to add more soil on top. Next, all we're going to do is simply mist them gently to settle them into the soil. And we're going to need to mist them regularly until we see sprouts. The next flower you should be starting in February is statice. Statice, much like snapdragons, can take a very long time to mature, 110 to 120 days. So get it started now. But it also can take about 7 to 14 days to germinate. So if you want longer blooms, you want to enjoy them longer into the season, get them started right now. To get your statice seed started, all we're going to do is we're simply going to, much like the snapdragons, we're going to compress the soil ever so slightly just to have good contact with the seeds. We're using the same seed starting mix, that's the Pro Mix. And once your cells have been compacted, we're going to take our seeds, sprinkle them in. You only want to bury them maybe about 1/4 inch or less. And take our seeds, we're going to sprinkle in a couple seeds per cell. Again, we're going to come back and thin later. The thing with flower seeds is that they have slightly lower germination rate than, say, a vegetable. If you want to put a few more seeds per cell, that's fine. Also, flower seeds can handle being grown a little closer together in most cases than a lot of vegetables. And so if you don't even want to thin, you can still have quite a good success rate by just growing them up as is multi-sown. Then we're going to take that same seed starting mix, cover it up just to give them a little bit of darkness. They will germinate better in the dark. Our tag in. Now, all these seeds, we're going to put them on a heat mat later. All these seeds will germinate better between 65 and 75 degrees up to about 80 degrees. So because we're in a slightly cool room, we're going to put them on a heat mat, and all the seeds that we're going to be starting today will benefit from that and will typically germinate a little bit faster. All right, now that we got the status started here, we are going to start the next flower that needs to be started in February, and that is dahlias. Now dahlias, they're a flower that as you cut them, they're going to continue to grow and continue to produce all summer long, well up to the frost. And the longer you can get them to grow, they also can form tubers, and you can actually save those tubers to grow next year. So it actually is one that the longer you grow it, the healthier and the larger those tubers are going to be, the larger and healthier the blooms are going to be. So it only makes sense that even though it only takes about 60 to 80 days to mature, that the sooner you start it, the better it's going to be. So we're gonna get some started, and then we're gonna move on to the next crop. With dahlias, same routine as before. We're going to slightly compress the soil. That gives just good contact with the seeds. They will also like the heat mat that we're gonna put them on to get the soil near that kind of 70, 75 degree range. However, in this case, because the seeds are a little bit larger and because these plants grow quite fast, we're not going to put any more than 2 seeds per cell. Now you can put 2, you're gonna have to thin to 1 plant though if both germinate, because you're gonna have a lot of competition for space. These are gonna be growing in here for a while. We're only putting 2 seeds and we're thinning to the healthiest 1 plant. And that's going to give us the best results. After we're done sowing these seeds, we're going to cover them up with soil just like before, dampen them in, and keep them well watered until they germinate. And they do take only about 5 to 7 days to germinate. In some cases, they can take a little longer, but these are usually pretty fast to sprout, which is good. The next flower that you want to get started so you don't miss out is lavender. Now lavender, much like poppies, needs to be cold stratified for up to 5 weeks. So this is going to go into the fridge for 3 to 5 weeks, much like the poppies were. And then once we pull them out, it takes up to 30 days for them to actually germinate. And then once they germinate, it can take 85 to 90 days for them to mature. Now, I'm not expecting many blooms this year on our lavender. It is a perennial. So what we're doing is we're getting it up and growing. And it's very important that on these perennials, that you get them up and growing so they have a nice established root system to help them survive the winter. So much like the poppies, all we're going to do is we're going to take our labeled bag, throw it in our paper towel into our Ziploc baggie dry. It really helps when it's dry to put it in. If you pre-moisten your paper towel before you put it in, it can be nearly impossible. I'm speaking from experience here. So just pre-moisten it once it's already in the bag. Then we're gonna take our seeds and we're gonna sprinkle those in. Now the variety we're starting today is Vera lavender. I absolutely love Vera for cooking, culinary purposes. It just produces a much higher quality lavender for eating. You could dry it, turn it into lavender lemonade. You could use it for baking with. Also, it makes great essential oils. If you have a lot of it, you can make essential oils with a basic distilling process. It's just a phenomenal lavender in my opinion. And because we have the farm, we're going to be growing about 500 lavender plants total for the farm for a small little lavender patch. And then we're going to have some lavender honey because we have our honeybees as well. Just trying to add some fun, cool things at the farm. So we're going to sprinkle a few of these seeds in here. I'm going to off camera start a few more of these baggies because we have a lot more seed in here, but it's super important that you don't crowd these seeds. If you crowd them and one happens to mold, what happens is one bad apple kind of spoils the bunch. So we're going to spread these out, and you want good distance between your seeds. It doesn't have to be crazy far apart, just try not to stack them on top of each other. And that is all we need to do. We're going to remove that air, seal it up. That's going to go in the fridge for 3 to 5 weeks. The next flower you want to get started in February are violas and pansies. Now, not because they take a long time to germinate, they only take a week or so to germinate. Not because they take a long time to mature, they only take like 35 to 45 days to mature. It's because they like cold weather. Pansies and violas need cold weather to survive and thrive, as well as flower. They're one of the first spring flowers that people move out into the garden. Oftentimes you'll see garden centers loading up around Easter with Easter lilies and violas and pansies. And that's because violas and pansies can handle the cold weather. They're one of the only annuals that I can really think of that if it were to snow, they're just out in the snow just chilling and thriving. So you want to move them outside so you can take advantage of that window. Because if you move them outside too late and the heat of summer comes, it's going to kill them off or severely stunt their growth. So we want to get them growing, and then we're going to move them outside. And when we move them outside is also really important. It is so critical to getting amazing pansies and violas if you move them outside 2 weeks before your last frost date. Now, when I'm sowing my Johnny Jump Up violas and my pansies, I want to move them to a part of the tray where I can remove them and not disturb the rest of the seedlings that are going to be growing here. Now, through this whole tray, I've got my status, I've got my dahlias, I've got my snapdragons, I'll have my bells of Ireland foreshadowing. I'm going to have these seedlings here that are going to be growing, and I don't want to mess them up because they're going to be growing in this tray for another 3 to 5 weeks after I move my pansies and violas out. So I'm going to move them to a part of the tray. I'm going to plant them in a part of the tray that I can remove these plugs and not disturb the rest of the tray or risk damaging the rest of those seedlings. It's just really important to kind of separate them because these are going to go outside about 1 to 2 weeks before my last frost date. I've already compressed the cells here just a little bit, and I'm simply going to take my seeds and I'm going to sprinkle about 3 to 5 seeds per cell. Again, they will also benefit from the heat mat that is going to be underneath. They'll germinate well in 65 to 70 degree soil, but they won't grow in 65 to 70 degree soil. They like cool soil to grow in. The seeds just germinate better in slightly warm soil. That's why as soon as we start to get sprouts, we're going to remove them from the heat mat. And the final flower that you need to be starting in February is Bells of Ireland. Now, Bells of Ireland, in my opinion, is one of the most beautiful cut flowers. This is part of the MIgardener cut flower collection. If you haven't checked it out, absolutely check out our cut flower collection. We have so many beautiful flowers in that. And Bells of Ireland is just such a striking lime green flower, but it almost looks like it's really crazy. It's just so unique because there's very rarely green flowers, but Bells of Ireland is a green flower, super tall, absolutely incredible. It's a showstopper. But much like the status and the snapdragons, boy, it takes a long time. Holy smokes, it takes a long time. It can take up to 100 days to mature and 20 days to germinate. So you want to get it started early, and that way you can enjoy it longer into the growing season. We're just going to compact our soil, and then once we compact our soil, we're just going to sprinkle our seeds in. The nice thing is that the seeds are not super small. They look almost like spinach seed, but because they are a little bit larger, they give you a lot more to hold on to. We're just going to sow about 3 to 5 seeds per cell. And then once we get these up and growing, we're going to thin to the healthiest 2 per cell. They can grow pretty closely to one another without competing too much for space. So again, we're putting 3 to 5 seeds per cell, then thinning to the healthiest 1 to 2. We're going to cover them up with some soil, and that will do it. Now we do have one more seed to start. We don't have it here right now, and that is more foreshadowing that one of the final seeds you want to start in February, and we're hopefully going to have it in late February to MIgardener, and it won't hurt even if you start in early March, but you want to start it early, and that is larkspur. MIgardener will officially be carrying larkspur as one of our seeds, and that's why I left, if you haven't noticed, I left 2 little rows there for our larkspur seed. It's coming in from our grower, and I'm very excited to be carrying it. So make sure you check back at MIgardener.com for larkspur, another seed in our cut flower collection. And so it's always something that I love to add on to, bring beauty to you in not just vegetables, but also flowers. And so I hope you will check out all these seeds over at MIgardener.com. I also hope that you'll check out Bootstrap Farmer. That's what we're sowing these seeds in, and the trays below them. They're incredibly high quality. I would not trust my garden with any other seed starting supplies other than Bootstrap Farmer and ProMix. So I hope you guys enjoyed. As always, this is Luke from the MIgardener channel, reminding you to grow bigger, and we'll catch you all later. See ya. Bye. Hey, thank you so much for watching today's video. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed, consider clicking this one. You'll probably enjoy it just as much. I want to thank you for your viewership, because without it, this channel would not be as amazing as it is. Also, if you haven't subscribed, consider subscribing. It's free, and we upload videos every Monday, Wednesday, or Friday. We also have vegetable seeds, fertilizer, or tools. If you need any of those, consider visiting MIgardener.com. Links will be in the description box below. We've got you covered. And as always, we'll see you all in the garden. Take care.